Hello and welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia, Yumiko's route. In the last episode, Yumiko's attempt at dealing with the loneliness and the fact that she had herself dismissed Yuuji from her protective service meant that she had to stay inside Mihamar Academy. However, one day, when Yuuji was out, men in black sedans and suits came and took Yumiko away, though she did go with them on her own will. However, Yuuji was not about to accept this after he got a text message from Yumiko, and proceeded to start on a chase, first on a bike, then in a supercar, and eventually ending it with throwing a frozen turkey in the jet engine of a private plane. We last heard from Yuuji and Yumiko when they were on the run. So let's continue. In television dramas and such, fugitives on the run from something or often head straight for the sleepiest stretch of the countryside they can find. The basic idea is that less people means less opportunities for someone to see you, but 9 times out of 10, that's a downright terrible strategy. An outsider suddenly showing up in a tiny, close-knit community stands out like a proverbial sore thumb. As anyone who's read a decently plotted mystery novel can tell you, hide a leaf among leaves and a corpse among corpses. And when you're looking for a place with high population that offers convenient opportunities for under-the-table employment, the metropolitan area is the obvious choice. When you're hiding a person, do it among people. That's one lesson I learned not from a master, but through painful personal experience. The day's work finished up right on schedule. I walked the road home at a steady pace, a bag of deep-fried food from one of my new co-workers dangling from one hand. This town, about an hour by train from the heart of Tokyo, used to be one of the old-school red light districts back in the day. Even now that it's been cleaned up, the atmosphere is still a little on the seedy side. Anybody would get lost on the first trip through this warren of narrow streets and tangled alleyways. Not the most convenient town to lead a normal life in, but right now it's exactly what we need. Nothing seems off today either. With small movement of my eyes, I observe the appearance and behavior of the people around me. Apart from the checking for possible surveillance personnel, I'm looking for changes in the neighborhood shops and restaurants. Anything even slightly different from yesterday warrants careful scrutiny. Although it's pure habit by now, this still involves a good deal of mental focus and emotional strain. Honestly, pretty rough when I'm coming home from physically exhausted from a long day of manual labor. Still, letting my guard down isn't an option. We're tucked away pretty discreetly here, but there are definitely people looking for us, and a single confidence could completely overturn the status quo. A single coincidence. Quietly repeating that fact to myself, I take yet another look around. I overlap my memorized image from yesterday with the street before my eyes and compare the two carefully. About 15 minutes walking distance from the station, I slip through a pair of alleyways, then enter a small apartment building. There are more straightforward routes home, but I've been deliberately taking a tangled path to make life a little harder for anyone who tries to follow. After a slow, watchful climb up the stairs, I unlock the door marked 203 and enter the room. I'm back. All quiet today as well. When I open the door, I'm immediately greeted by a relieved face. Yes, nothing out of the ordinary. Confirming that Yumiko's present and well, I finally allow myself to relax a little. Alright, good to hear. Taking off my shoes, I hand over the sack with fried food. Got another present from Sawai-san. Can you get out the plates? It's always Sawai-san, isn't it? I feel a little guilty since we can't offer anything in return. Well, as far as they know, I'm living alone. I don't need that much at lunch. Yes, they're a little worried about my diet. There seem to be a lot of kind people at that workplace of yours. They're a little on the rough side, but yeah, you're not wrong. After leaving my bag on the floor, I head for the kitchen area. I'll warm it up and throw something together. Alright. The cold water filling into my hands feels like a sign of the changing seasons. Autumn may linger a little while longer by the calendar, but soon it'll be winter in all but name. That you, Amane? Yeah, I got Sakaki out of there. Sorry about the hassle. I'll be getting in touch again at some point, but I had Sakaki throw his cell away. Keep in mind we won't be able to answer calls from your end for the moment. Also, tell Sachi I'm sorry about the bike. I'll compensate her as soon as I get the chance. Alright, hanging up now. Susan? Yeah, the others made some real contributions to the rescue operations. I see. I ended up causing everyone more trouble. This isn't the time to be feeling guilty. For the moment, let's just focus on getting ourselves somewhere where they can't track us down. Do you have any ideas? I've made some preparations for a rainy day scenario. We'll stop by there first. Still pulling Yumiko along, I looked over to meet her eyes. Don't worry, it's going to be alright. Trust me. She answered while squeezing my hand powerfully in hers. Okay. She was kidnapped isn't an explanation. I arranged the helicopter straight to the airplane and this is what I get? Are you people brain dead? I'm very sorry. We never expected the man to execute such an absurd plan. Preparing for the unexpected is your entire damn job, isn't it? Enough excuses. Get out there and bring her back. Even if it's the last thing you do. Yes, sir. What the hell is going on inside that organization of yours? I sincerely apologize. We're currently bringing all of our available resources to bear. Catch him or kill him. I don't care which, but get it done quickly. I want this taken care of before things get completely out of hand. I do have one question, if that will be alright. And what will that be? Why aren't you notifying the police? This is a kidnapping. I'm sure your citizens of stature has a few connections. Citizens of your stature has a few connections high in the ranks who would ensure the case is treated as a priority. If you want the matter settled swiftly and surely compared to relying on private investigators and our organization, that seems much more. You're saying this knowing full well that is impossible, aren't you? No, I generally don't understand. This is a very important and delicate time for the company and myself. A full-fledged police investigation would inevitably leak. We might be able to get a media blackout in place, but the rumors will still spread, and that simply is not acceptable. Going to the police isn't an option. Instead of lecturing me about things you don't understand, start looking for a way to resolve this matter as soon as humanly possible. But, sir... In the first place, the man responsible for this is your subordinate, isn't he? Stop trying to pass the buck. Get out of there, get out there and clean up the mess you made. Very well, we will do our utmost. I don't care how hard you try. All I want is results. Yes. A very modest dinner for the day consists of the deep-fried food I brought home from work, with sides of boiled spinach and miso soup. We do have some savings from my rainy day fund, but we can't dip into it carelessly with such an uncertain future ahead of us. Our diet's gotten pretty plain as a result. Not that Yumiko has ever breathed a word of a complaint. Then again, she was always scarfing down junk food when we were in the dorm, so I guess she's not the pickiest of eaters. So this is fried squid? It's my first time trying it. I can tell. I do seem to remember Makina telling me something about Yumiko's calamari history, or lack thereof. But I have to say, this is the first time I've seen someone examine a piece of fried squid quite this intently. They all made fun of me in the dorm when I said I'd never had any. Well, congratulations on losing your fried squid virginity. Oh please, don't start talking like Iri-Susan now. After those words leave Yumiko's mouth, a slightly lonely expression flits across her face. I wonder if I'll ever get a chance to wear that uniform again. Since our arrival here, those flashy school uniforms have naturally remained shut inside our dressers. Unless we manage to get back to Mihama Academy someday, I suppose that's where they're going to stay. Do you want to? I suppose I do. Someone once said that uniform looked nice on me after all. If I hadn't rescued Yumiko, she would have been shipped off to some school overseas. Our old life would have disappeared whether I took action or not. There's nothing to regret. What's wrong, Kasami-kun? It's nothing. Although I'd made some preparations for an emergency beforehand, this escape plan was still extremely reckless and dangerous. I acted boldly, assuming that the Sakaki family's circumstances would prevent them from turning this into a manhunt. Still, depending on their approach to the situation, we might have ended up getting caught within hours. But I couldn't bring myself to just desert Yumiko, whatever the risks. I couldn't just let her disappear and leave me with nothing but words of apology. I wanted to do something for her. Then again, that probably wasn't the only reason. I wanted to protect Yumiko. That was the single largest motive. But there was also something else to it as well, something more selfish. The woman I get close to always seemed to disappear. At some point I'd grown afraid of that chain of loss, convinced myself it was a curse, a punishment of some sort. The more I started to care about Yumiko, the more I wondered if she'd followed the same pattern. And then they tried to take her away from me. Kasami-kun, Yumiko tries to speak, her voice soft, but hesitates. Reading the atmosphere, I answer before she can continue. Were you about to apologize again, Yumiko? What? Looks like I hit right in the bullseye. She lowers her eyes from mine awkwardly. Thought I told you to cut it out with that. But your life's been completely derailed because of me, and I'm still making you worry about... Yumiko? I interrupt her halfway through a sentence with a slightly forcible tone. I decided to protect you, and you decided to come with me. There's nothing to be ashamed of and nothing to apologize for. Kasami-kun. Look, Yumiko, you're finally your own person now, so for the moment, why not think about yourself? I'd imagine you've gotten a pretty decent backlog to work through on that front. Yes, you're right. Yumiko nods firmly. Probably came off as pretty pompous there, but those words were directed at myself as much as her. What's driving me forward right now? It's absolutely true that I want to protect Yumiko and do what's best for her, and underneath those clear feelings, there's a number of hazier moments that I don't quite understand myself. When I took her out of that plane, I told her we'd search for an answer. I thought it was the word Yumiko needed to hear most of all after all those years lost in the fog, but I'm starting to think that applies just as much to me. Here, Yumiko, eat that one too. Right. I can't allow my uncertainty to make Aunt Yumiko uneasy as well. For the moment, I'm going to try and keep the pensive reversaries to a minimum. The forecast called for rain, but instead we are greeted with a clear and beautiful morning. Not that the weather outside has too much effect on our current lifestyle, especially in Yumiko's case. Are these all the ones you finished already? I gesture at a sizable pile of hardcover books sitting at Yumiko's bedside. Yes, I'm done with those, so if you don't want to read them, you can go ahead and return them. Oh, yeah, alright. Is there something else you wanted to ask? No, I was just trying to remember when they're due back at the library. Oh. Yumiko is currently a fugitive of sorts. Naturally, that restricts her freedom of movement. She leaves the apartment mostly at night, when few pedestrians are around, and only when I've given her the all clear. The vast majority of her time is spent indoors. But of course she'd go crazy just sitting around in here all day long, so I take periodic trips to the library to borrow her large quantities of books. Were those any good? Yes, you chose well this time, Kasami-kun. They were all very interesting reads, so I haven't felt bored all week. It doesn't sound like Yumiko saying that just for my sake. Probably her honest thoughts. That said, spending all this time alone must be a little rough emotionally. Yumiko was on her own more often than not when we were in the dorm, but she had a cell phone, easy access to the internet, and above all else, boisterous friends who kept things lively. By comparison, she's only got one antisocial man for company in this cramped apartment, and he's not even around for most of the day. There aren't many chances for us to do anything together. Got to start thinking about the next move pretty soon. We can't keep up this lifestyle forever. A decisive solution is going to be necessary. Not that I really know what that would look like yet. I suppose there's no choice but to cautiously observe the Sakaki family's movement and piece together a strategy. The cell phone in my breast pocket buzzes quietly only once. Ever since the kidnapping, it hasn't been doing much of that. There aren't many people who know the number. Most of them are back in Mihammer Academy dorm, and I told them in no uncertain terms not to call except in an outright emergency. Under these circumstances, there's only one plausible reason my phone would ring. Figures. Glancing at the screen, I nod to myself and get to my feet. Are you going out? Yumiko doesn't know who it's from, or even that I received a message. Probably a bit disconcerting to see me get up so suddenly for no apparent reason. Yeah, just for a while. Okay. Even so, at times like these, Yumiko never asks where I'm going or why. I guess that means she trusts me, but there's still a clear shadow of unease on her face. I'll be back in an hour or so. Lightly patting her on the head, I try to offer a little reassurance. She must understand rationally that I'll be back soon enough, but it's only natural to feel a little unsettled when your only connection to the outside world vanishes. I casually descend the apartment stairs and glance around the area as I head into an alley. After 2 quick left turns, I clamber over a rusted old gas meter and make my way down a shadowy lane to a dead end. This is a place I scouted out beforehand. It's a blind spot from pretty much every angle, with very little risk of being overheard. I lean against the far wall, take one last careful look around, then finally take out my phone. Well, anything new on your end? JB's voice hasn't changed much since I escaped. Same business-like tone as always. There's an oddly upbeat song playing in the background though. Sounds like she's got her mini component stereo on. We're not exactly thriving, but at least we have our health. You really sound like an old man at sometimes. Hasn't anyone at your job said anything? Talk like someone your age, maybe? When did Ichigaya start investing in mind-reading research? No paranormal skills were needed for that one. In any case, you seem sure cheerful enough to make stupid jokes. Not bad by fugitive standards. JB intersperses her retorts with heavy, exasperated sighs. This incident has, of course, been an enormous nuisance for her as my boss. The case officer bears ultimate responsibility for the agent's actions. She's temporarily demoted until the matter is resolved, and they went so far as to set up an internal investigation to determine if she was conspiring with me. In the end, they decided I acted alone and cleared JB's name. That's the only reason she's even able to talk to me like this. Of course, I'm still using my untraceable phone with its encrypted connection for these chats. To be honest, a few hours of groveling at her feet wouldn't really cut it at this point, but there's no point worrying about paying her back until I stop running up the tab. Yeah, I guess I'm starting to get the hang of this manual labor thing. Anyway, to what do I owe the pleasure? It's the usual, an attempt to talk you out of this. There's no point in dragging this out forever. It'd be wise to turn yourself in before things get rough. A tempting suggestion, but unfortunately I'm otherwise engaged at the moment. Should have made you offer earlier. Oh, but it's never too late for a change, is it? I'll even take care of cancelling your other contract. Sorry, but I'm not a big fan of changing horses midstream. Let's drop the subject, shall we? That reminds me. What about that cactus you left behind in your room? I'm thinking it might be getting a little worm-eaten by now. What's wrong? Nothing. Leave the cactus alone. I'm pretty sure it's insect-free. Alright, if you say so. Give me a ring anytime if you happen to have a change of heart on the previous matter. Bye now. JB promptly hangs up on me in the typical efficient style. I flip the cell phone shut. No movement at present, eh? The main meaning of that formulaic conversation lay in the music playing in the background. We have a simple system where the genre of song communicates some basic information. Today it was a bossa nova Hawaiian beat arrangement, meaning Ichigaya's search continuing with no apparent progress. No imminent threat, but we can't let our guard down. Now that her name's been cleared, she's probably no longer under surveillance, but JB's a straight-laced military type with a powerful respect for authority. She is not capable of casually leaking me detailed information. So instead, she gives me small hints using this sort of indirect method. I really am due for one hell of a marathon groveling session when all this is over. Seriously though, JB, what kind of question was that? A casual query about my cactus at the end there took me by surprise. I've never owned such a plant in my life. It was a clear reference to the prickly individual currently sharing my room. And as for worm-eaten, that should probably go without saying. Well, I guess it wouldn't be too strange to interpret it that way. Whatever the circumstances may be, I'm a man and Yumiko is a woman. We ran away hand in hand. We're living together. It's not hard to see why someone might imagine something along those lines. For a woman of JP's age and personality, it probably seems like the natural assumption to make. Still, the fact of the matter is, nothing's happened between us. It's questionable whether Yumiko's interested in being eaten by anyone, and more fundamentally, I don't have a clear sense of how she feels about me. At the very least, I think she trusts me. Thanks to JP's unnecessary prying, I've got a new question weighing slightly on my mind. The room's silent except for the irregular clacking of her chopsticks. Yumiko's never been the type to chatter on and on while she eats. In fact, she seems to make an effort to be as quiet as possible at the table. Probably has something to do with that good breeding of hers. I tend not to talk too much during meals myself, but today my silence is deliberate. In other words, instead of trying to make conversation, I'm focusing my thoughts on the matter from this afternoon. What exactly does Yumiko think of me? It's like something a middle schooler would be worrying about. That said, considering our very intimate living circumstances, the presence or absence of romantic feelings is a serious matter. If I jump to a mistaken conclusion, I could end up making Yumiko deeply uncomfortable in the one refuge she has left. I need to proceed very carefully. Still, guess it couldn't hurt to ask. There's something I've been wondering about that seems tangentially related to the question at hand. Seems like a good place to begin. Hey Yumiko. Yes, Kasami-kun? Why are you still using my last name? Yumiko's chopsticks stop dead midair, her pupils shrinking subtly inside the wide open eyes. Huh? Not a complicated question, right? Just wondering why you never called me Yuuji. I'm consistently using the intimate first name with Yumiko, but she's still going with Kasami-kun. Is that an implicit signal not to try to get any closer? Does it have some other meaning? Knowing that might give me an answer to the more sensitive question I've been pondering. Unfortunately, Yumiko appears to have frozen solid. For a good 5 seconds, she just stares at me. Finally, as if remembering to move, she begins to flop her mouth slightly open and closed like a goldfish. Well, it's just The words that finally emerge from her mouth are far from the conclusive reply I was hoping for. How can I put this? I'm not quite ready for... Staring down at her omelette, as she pokes with it with the chopsticks, she mumbles vague non-answers. But, why do you ask? That really came out of nowhere. Yumiko abruptly pivots to a question of her own in an attempt to regain control of the situation. Being honest with her at this point would probably be a mistake. No reason in particular, just a little curious. Huh? What's wrong? Were you expecting something else? No, not particularly. That's how it always is with you. Yumiko's slightly flushed face pulls back to its original distance, her expression changing to one of restrained anger. The omelette she was fiddling with has been thoroughly dissected into a few miserable yellow chunks. And in the end, I didn't even get an answer to my question. That reaction was just too ambiguous. From one angle, it looks like Yumiko is actively hiding her romantic feelings for me, but you could also interpret it as an attempt to deflect my interest. To be perfectly honest, I'm not the most perceptive man alive when it comes to these matters. Analyzing Yumiko's feelings based off of that conversation is far beyond my meager capabilities. Quietly slurping down my miso soup, I glance over at the young woman in question. She's still got an irritable expression on her face. I don't quite understand the thought process, but if she's displeased with me for trying to upset the status quo, I guess she isn't interested for the moment. That night, even after turning out the lights and slipping under my blanket, I couldn't manage to fall asleep. Yumiko sleeping at my side as always, but as I watch, her regular peaceful breathing begins to change slightly. Every once in a while, Yumiko grimaces and moans softly in her sleep. Might be some sort of nightmare. Sometimes it sounds like she's trying to speak, although the words aren't intelligible. Don't worry, Yumiko. I gently touch her forehead, then stroke my hand up through her hair. Her expression seems to soften a little. Maybe those words brought her some relief. My own feelings had been an open question to me for some time, but as I look down at Yumiko's face, I can feel something like an answer emerge. The girl's definitely special to me. That vague desire to keep her safe has grown into something personal and affectionate. But that doesn't mean I'm going to push her to return my feelings. Answering them or ignoring them is just one of the many freedoms Yumiko's finally managed to gain. JB's malicious provocation nearly drove me astray, but originally I hadn't even considered the possibility of making a move. Still, who knows what might happen down the road. If the two of us stay together, I'll probably get an answer to those feelings eventually. I want to put an end to this fugitive lifestyle as soon as possible, but there's no need for us to rush when it comes to figuring out our relationship. We trust each other. That should be enough for now. But not long thereafter, events took an abrupt and somewhat unexpected turn. Human beings don't act on the basis of reason alone. Soon I would gain a new appreciation for that undeniable fact. And that's where we'll end this episode. So, we shall see how their relationship develops in the next episode. But until then, take care.